Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Amazing Race Season 34, Episode 2. I'm your host, Chris, and joined with me today, again, is Michelle, my co-host. Michelle, how are you doing?
Hi, good. It's school holiday time. I'm fantastic.
Yeah, you can see on Michelle's face, she's nice and, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready for this podcast. I am on way too much caffeine, through this work week. It's just been absolutely crazy. I'm so envious of you getting a break, but I think working with kids, you kind of need it.
I know. I mean, obviously, as a teacher, you still do work in the break. I went into work on Tuesday, just setting a few things up ready for next term, which is usually the busiest term 4. But yeah, it's not as taxing as actually being with them every day.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. Much respect for you for doing that. I couldn't do it. Nikki, welcome to the live. Still haven't watched it. No. Catch up, Nikki, catch up on it. And Dylan 3 all the way from South Africa. Welcome as well here in the live stream. Doing it this time, you never know. Like, what's the time in South Africa now? It'd be like midday over there. I think 12:30 in the afternoon. So not too bad of it. I'm assuming, Dylan, you're doing this over your lunch break. Just having a cheeky watch of this podcast. But Michelle, interesting episode. We had more time this week than what we normally would get in an Amazing Race episode, but for some other reason, for me, it didn't feel like I saw more. Like there was much more time, but I felt like it was still short.
But I mean, the first episode of Survivor was an hour and a half first, and the second episode of Amazing Race was an hour and a half. And I thought, geez, what are they doing? Have they got an Aussie on board that's making all the episodes longer? I'm just not used to it. But obviously, I love longer episodes. And, I don't think you feel like you didn't see as much, mainly because there wasn't a lot of traveling between the roadblock and the detour, but there was traveling at the start of the race. So I'm assuming that's what's caught you off guard.
Yeah, I read a little bit of comments on Reddit. I risked it over in the Reddit world and read a couple of comments because you never know what you're going to walk into on there. It's a bit of a
I know. Well, I actually
West.
went over there yesterday for something totally different, and I'm like, how can nobody be talking about what I was actually searching for? And I couldn't see it anywhere. And I'm thinking, what? Reddit talks about everything.
So I don't want to pretend like I had this thing thought out myself. I saw it on Reddit. Can't remember the user's name, but they basically said when they did this leg, they probably didn't plan for this leg to be a longer runtime on the episode with it, because some people said, why weren't there additional challenges so that the episode was a little bit more jam-packed and it felt like something was happening, because it kind of felt like we just saw people struggling over and over, not getting it. So they're just giving us more of that instead of something exciting happening. And I have to agree, it wasn't as exciting. There was a few exciting things that happened towards the end of the episode, but for me, the pacing kind of felt off. But this user on Reddit sort of said when they probably plan out the season, they wouldn't have known that there was going to be this longer episode that was given to them. But apparently there is a scheduling thing in the US at the moment where Survivor and The Amazing Race is covering the slot for another show that's going to take place next week or something like that. So these things kind of happen. And, I don't know how you felt about it, but I did feel like there was, there wasn't really that much more given to us. It was just, we saw more of the fails, I guess, and people trying to yodel.
Well, yeah, normally you don't get to see as many of the fails. Normally you see that try 15, try 16, attempt 10, 11. But we actually saw more of the attempts. Yeah, I do agree. But I found it funny because some of the attempts were quite comical.
Let us know which ones stood out for you.
The bells. Oh my gosh. Like I mean, the bells were great. I think I would have done either of them. I didn't have one that I would have liked over the other. And as someone was saying earlier, I think it was Rex, was holding the bells too high. So every time he rang, it couldn't get it down in time to the timing of the rest of the bells. And that's why it took them so long. But if you know music, then it would have been really easy. But I love both of them.
Yeah. Listen, I'm kind of similar to you. I think I I don't know if I should openly say this, but yeah, I was a choir boy back in school. I did musicals and all that kind of stuff. So I can sing, I can hold a tune. I'm definitely not tone deaf like Claire. And my sister
Oh
was
my
a really
God, that's
good ballroom dancer.
singing.
Yeah, my sister was a really good ballroom dancer. So like I used to be her training partner when she went home to learn how to do the rumba, how to do the cha-cha, all these kind of different dances. So I feel like I could pick up dancing really easily as well. So I would have been in a similar situation to you where it wouldn't have mattered which one, but I think I like to dance. So I probably would have gravitated towards that more so than the bells.
Yeah, I think the dancing was actually easier, only because you didn't have to get everything. The bells were just so specific, and it was a bit harder in that respect. But yeah, as I said, I love it. You know, someone did complain that all the challenges are like music challenges because they had the singing and then they had the bells and the
Yeah.
dancing, and I said, but that's what Austria's acclaimed for, music and all that sort of stuff. And I'm quite happy with that. I didn't need another food challenge where they're eating some strange German sausage
I feel like
or
they should have
something
done
like that.
like a trivia challenge of all Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and like,
Oh,
you know, just
really?
ask them questions about it. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger is from Austria, you know, like get
Yeah,
something, get creative. But
yeah,
I get what people are saying. Like they just needed a little bit of balance, I guess, because it was too
yes,
musically inclined, like a roadblock and then also a detour, one
yeah,
after the other,
mm,
basically on this. And obviously, it was going to fit certain people more than others, and that's always the case. I mean, last season I felt like a lot of things sort of fell in place for Kim and Penn, and it sort of played into their wheelhouse. Not that they weren't great competitors. I agree
yeah,
with a lot of the Amazing Race cast that we interviewed, and if you haven't seen those interviews, they are on the channel. There's quite a few of them that we interviewed afterwards. All of them said that they reckon Kim and Penn would do good in any season, regardless. But you
yes,
know, a lot of it was musically and entertainment inclined last season as well. So it shouldn't be a shock to anybody watching this show that they're going
exactly.
to do that type of challenge.
Except where was the Sound of Music? Like, really, they're in Austria. They could have done something with the Sound of Music. They could have had they could have had them doing a puppet show. They could have had them singing around a fountain and having to get the timing right. I don't know, climbing trees. You know, I love the Sound of Music, and they could have done something with that. But I'm not sure if I don't think they ever have done anything with Sound of Music before.
I feel like they
Uh,
have. I'm pretty sure. Like
I'm
I'm
trying to
terrible
think.
with I'm terrible with like season numbers and when it exactly would have
Yeah.
happened. I know Logan listens to this podcast. We probably will lose some points for not knowing this if he does listen to it. But
But
Logan,
he
if you
only
hear this,
listens to 2 minutes. He may not listen
exactly.
to this part.
Yeah,
Imagine if
he
he
might not
does.
listen to this part, but yeah, if he does listen to this part, then tell us what season it happened in, because I'm pretty sure that there
Yes,
was a
please,
season where
Logan.
they did the Sound of Music. You know, he'll
Yeah,
know. He'll probably
yeah.
Google it and then tell
Look,
us
it
that
was
he knew.
8:52. Maybe I'll give him a heads up.
We need your help while you're ranking us down on this competition you've got.
No, we got
Can
a
you?
6. 6 out of whatever, 20, whatever it was. I thought we did quite well.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So we start off with this race. One of the questions I had last week when we did this was, were we going to see the grouping come back where, you know, the first three people are together, the next three
Well,
people, and we got our answer. The grouping is back. Are
yes.
you a yay or nay on this? You know, I'm
Nay.
not the highest on it. I'm nay as well. Why are we still
Nay.
doing this? Like, they're doing a lot of good stuff, but this is not it.
You know, it's all COVID. I'm really certain it's just all COVID controlled. And what I'd really like to see is if you come in at, you know, that the 12-hour rule, or even if it's not 12, it can be 15 hours. I don't care what it is. But if you come in at 8:30 and the next person comes in 20 minutes later, that person leaves 20 minutes later. If that the next one is 35, they leave 35 minutes after the first team, so that it's exactly how they arrived. However, in past seasons, when that's been something like 8 to 12 hours and it's been an absolute nightmare, I can understand you can't do it.
No,
But
you've got to control it somewhere.
yeah,
But I feel like this kind of makes it very difficult for teams that are at the bottom to find their way back to the top. And also, it
exactly.
finds it difficult for those teams that are really good to just get away
Stay.
slightly from the competition. But I agree
Yeah.
with you. You don't want 12 hours. You don't want them to be one team is still in a different country while the other teams are already in a different country. And logistically, I'm sure that's a
However,
nightmare.
which team was it that thought they were going somewhere in Munich and didn't
Yeah.
read that they were going to Austria?
Yeah. So I was going to bring this up, and while we're talking about that team, it's the cheerleader team, Quinton and Matty, that
Yes.
left in the first three. They were in that group of first three people that got out of
know.
there and completely messed it up and got way back because they went to another town in Germany and they went to the same street. They did the impossible. They found the same street that they were going to go to in Austria and went there and then realized, damn, we got to turn around. We got to go to Austria. And I've got to be honest, Quinton and Maddie kind of became my favorite team this episode. Like, you know, I've always got a team I've got to shout for. I'm like, I'm team cheerleaders this season. Like, they're my Lulu and Lala at this stage because they're going to be the underdogs. But I tell you what, they are a good team. They got third place in their first week, and they came back from way out. They had no right to come back and do the challenges as quickly as they did. But hats off to Maddie for breezing through the yodeling. And then obviously both being cheerleaders, having great chemistry. They also did extremely well when it came to dancing.
Yes. Yeah, they did. I mean, I think they did that dance on their first go, actually. But the whole map reading thing by everybody was having me in stitches because those maps were huge. Did you see it on the sidewalk? Like, it was so big. And then some of them can't even read a map. And then who was it in the back seat? It was Claire was in the back seat, and this map was like taking over the whole area in front of her. And I loved it. But they, you know, the maps over there have to be quite large because you move through countries very quickly.
Yeah. I want to know in the comments if anybody listens to this, you know, and there were a few people last week that did, let us know. Have you ever actually had to use a map somewhere? Because we spoke about this last year. I remember, or the previous season, when we spoke about the London part of the leg and where they had to read maps and run around. And I said, you know, I used to use maps all the time when I was in London back in the day because it was pre-Facebook, it was pre-Google Maps, you know, so I had to use maps when I was there. And it is a lot more difficult, I think, than what the average viewer can appreciate, and especially if you don't have the skill set for it. But there were two military boys down there doing this challenge, and they absolutely killed it when it came to reading the map. And I think that for both Marcus and Michael, the two brothers, they're going to do extremely well at the traveling bit. So the more we're going to see, what did they finish? They finished first this leg as well, really coming out as because we was kind of saying they're the two men. Like, why are they not the powerful team this season? Well, I think they've proven to us now that they will still be a force to be reckoned with. Their biggest enemy, similar to how Dusty and Ryan were their biggest enemy, is going to be them being their own biggest enemy at this stage, because it looks like there might be some conflict in that group. But man, can they read a map? And you would expect them to be good at reading a map. Being in the military, I mean, you don't have Google Maps if you're somewhere in Afghanistan or something like that, or in a war area, you know?
Yeah. And I think I said to you last year, I'm great at reading a map. I've just got to turn it around to the direction that I'm actually going in. I can't, even if it's upside down, I have to just have it in that direction to make it easier for me. What Quinton did that was funny, when it was down on the floor on the pavement, he actually talked to the map when it was flying up, and he said something like, "Stop it right now." And I talk to inanimate objects as well, and I thought, oh, this is great. I'm not totally alone in just talking to
There's Quinton the map whisperer this season, and is he gonna form this great rapport with the map in the future, and it's gonna lead them all the way from 11th place to first or second in this next leg. We've got Richard here in the live saying that I was so scared because I can't use a map. I can't even use a compass. And they do get a compass as well to use with the mat, because Claire was looking at it.
Why were they using a compass in the car, though? I don't understand. She was saying so that we know which direction we're going in, but and have it right. But you're moving the roads move all the time. Like, you need to follow a map, not the compass. If you're in the bush,
and read the signs on the road. Like, if you're looking at the compass, you might miss a sign that will tell you where on the map you are. But hey, I'm not going to question, like, they did not mess it up on the map reading part. They did not mess it up on that. It came down to the yodeling for that team. But before we move on from Michael and from Quinton and Maddie, really enjoyed the little bit of a backstory that they gave us, you know, with Quinton and Maddie, how they met. They've known each other prior to being in the cheerleader team. They actually auditioned together. He was the first male apparently as a cheerleader in the NFL. I didn't realize because he doesn't look that old. It must be something that they've just recently started doing. I
Yes.
thought that men have been cheerleaders for a lot longer than this.
Well, no, I think men have been cheerleaders more in the college, not in the grand game, and more in the colleges and the schools. Yeah, so I wonder when it did come in.
Well, it's awesome to have him on the show. It's awesome for him to bring awareness to that. I didn't know that it's so recent that men were allowed to do that. And like you said, it's been something in high schools there. It's been something that I'm sure many men have wanted to do it before, but they never had the opportunity because there was no options for them. Yeah. Yeah, so hey, it's great. It's great to see that. It's great to have them in there. I'm sure it will add to the entertainment value of the NFL as well. Like we said last week, men can throw women up in the air, catch them, do some crazy stunts. So I'm sure it's good. Like I actually need to find out if we can get some footage of them in action. Like I want to see them do their routine. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be something online. I'm sure, or someone can let us know in the comments. If they know of one of the halftime shows or something that they've been involved in. I'm just curious by nature, and I want to see what it looks like, But moving on, the teams that get there first, obviously, is going to be Derek and Claire. They absolutely killed it. Marcus and Michael.
They killed getting there. They did not kill the challenge.
No, but let's be honest.
She did kill it. She killed it in a different way altogether.
That's fair. But listen, maybe this is her Achilles heel. She's tone deaf. They now know it. Derek did the clinical, what would you call it, diagnosis on the streamers. It was the most hilarious thing. She's like, well, I've never been diagnosed. And he looks at her with a straight face and say, I'll diagnose you now. You'll tone it. It was such a brilliant moment. Their chemistry is on point. Like, I don't know how people cannot like them as a team, because I felt that they're just so fun to watch. And even their interactions with the other teams, I feel like they're bringing so much to this season. You can see that they're veterans. They've been on a show before, and they're bringing a lot of personality for me to the show. But like you said, Claire struggled at the yodeling, but how often is she going to yodel? Like, most of it's going to be traveling, and they're killing it at traveling.
No. It's not about yodeling. She can't even sing. Like, I can't even pretend to sing that badly. I don't even know how she does it. It was hilarious. I'm looking at my screen going, oh, like, how are you singing like that? But, give her kudos for, persevering and doing it over and over again, because I don't think she thought she sounded that bad, but it was so funny.
She got there in first place, and I think she left 8th at the end before she got out of there. So there was only like 2 teams behind her at that point. So really, really bad start for Claire, obviously, in this challenge. But Marcus and Michael, they get there. They've got rhythm. They do extremely well and get through it really quickly here. So that was quite good to see. But one of the things for me that I was thinking with the yodeling challenge, I feel like if you speak more than one language, it would actually help you. And obviously, being from South Africa, where we've got 12 official languages, I can speak 2 of them pretty fluently, and I understand a third one a little bit. I think that just understanding different dialects would probably be something that, if you're looking at it, because not only did they have to yodel, they had to kind of learn a different language. There's certain points where you've got to go up in your pitch, down in your pitch. Pronunciation of certain words was very important. I feel like I would have been okay with the yodeling, but maybe I'm being too confident. What do you think of that? Like, being able to speak different languages?
I don't speak. I mean, I can speak a bit of French, but I don't really speak another language. But I'm all used to hearing the different intonation of words, basically, from teaching. So I'm able to swing my words around and listen to children obviously talk when they're little, and I can decipher what they're saying. So I think I wouldn't do too badly either. And I love singing, so I think I'd be okay with that. I think I'd be probably in and out, considering you can look at the words at the same time. You don't have to memorize them.
Yeah. Well, this is how Claire did bad in this one, because I believe Team T-Rex got out of there before them, and he was having the worst time as well out there. Like, I felt like he was worse than Claire when they were doing this challenge. And one of the sad things, obviously losing them so early this season, is there was a little bit of an alliance of some sorts forming between them and the Military Brothers, which I quite enjoyed seeing here in the early stages, where they just clicked. They liked each other's vibe going there. So that's going to get squashed now because we won't see. It's maybe a good thing for the other teams because we don't want alliances dominating a season. But it just seemed like they got along really well, and I wanted to see that friendship blossom a little bit.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard, and I wonder if there will be alliances this time, and what they will be, how many, and if there will be strong alliances or not. I mean, we've seen in the Australian race, we had some strong alliances, and then all of a sudden one team decided, I don't want this alliance anymore, and the other team was like, oh, okay, all right, well, that's how it is. Whereas a lot of the time in the American version, the alliances sort of follow through to the end.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if there's going to be alliances this season as well, and if they're actually going to be able to work throughout. I mean, this is a different game, not to quote Jeff Probst with Survivor, and it being a shorter version of the game because we don't have non-elimination leagues. So each leg means that much more. But one thing I think that will get people to sort of work together and maybe get to know each other a little bit better, I remember the exit interview that we had with Kayla, and I believe even with Lulu and Lala last season, they said that being paired with other teams in your group, like if you're in the first 3 teams or middle 3 teams, you spend more time with those groups because you don't get to spend necessarily a lot of time with them outside of that. So you naturally start forming these bonds within these groups. So the groupings could become a thing where if you've got the same teams being in a group all the time, they may work together to a certain degree, but we certainly haven't seen it yet in this first couple of episodes. Like the only potential alliance was this military brother alliance and Team T-Rex potentially working together. But like I said, that didn't work out. I feel like with the yodeling, what else was there? They get the clothes, right? And the guys that got the suspenders looked actually pretty good. I'm going to say, I was like, yeah, I reckon I could rock that, like running around there.
Is it lederhosen? I don't know, but it's so cute. The girls' costumes were really cute.
But you fit in there, Michelle. That's like, when I was in Texas, when I lived in Texas for 9 months, I had a cowboy hat and I didn't feel awkward about it because everybody has a cowboy hat, So like, I feel like people would be like, yeah, you're rocking the Austrian, clothes that we want to see. So I feel like, you wouldn't feel awkward running around in those clothes.
It was
as long
cute.
as you don't have to run around in wooden shoes, that would kill you. Can you imagine running around in wooden shoes?
That hurts. They can't do that. Mind you, at the beginning when they were driving there, who was it? I think it was Aubrey and David weren't in red. They were in black. And I thought, hang on, you can't change colors on me. You're not allowed to change colors. You have to be in the same colors. And then I thought, I wonder if they knew that they would be in different clothes for the entire day. So they knew they didn't have to wear their red. But I'm thinking, hang on, what's happened here? Because normally
you're talking about Louis and Michelle instead of Aubrey and David, because Aubrey and David had black clothes on their cast pictures, but Louis
they don't have
Michelle,
red.
No, Louis and Michelle are the 2 that have got the red. I'll do a quick share screen here for you so we can have a look at the teams again.
So I was wrong.
So yeah, Louis and Michelle, I believe, are the 2 that are in red. Is those the 2 that you're talking about? You just got confused. That's fine. It's going to happen in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, okay. I'm excused just for the beginning.
Yeah, but think about it this way. Aubrey and David, like, are they even on the show? Like, I mean, we're hardly seeing anything about them. Like, I don't know anything about their lives. Like, we know that they're ballroom dancers. So obviously for them to go and do the dancing, they killed that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't know who they are.
Yeah. No, we haven't.
That's why I asked the question in the live, who's going next? And I put Aubrey and David up as a potential option. I put up Aubrey and David, Rich and Dom, Quentin and Maddie, and then another team. So far, everybody in the live has voted 60% saying Rich and Dom is going to be out next. And then it's divided 20% between Aubrey and David and Quentin and Maddie for the other 2 options.
They're all pretty strong teams. I mean, looking at them there, I mean, yeah, I'm thinking Rich and Dom because basically she'll just have a little mind explosion. But that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, they're the hot mess team this season. And it's not because of Rich, because I don't know anything really about Rich. Like, he's hardly ever talking to the camera. But Dom, there's this weird thing with Dom this season as she's doing this leg where, and a previous episode, I'm like, I mean, obviously I don't dislike her as a person. I don't know her as a person, but I'm like, as the TV character on my screen, do I like you or do I not like you at this point? Because
What does
there's
she
points
call
where
herself? A mer? Was it a mer
oh,
fairy?
yeah, something like that. Something like that. And it's her hair is like her tail, she said.
Yes.
Like the yeah. But
Yes.
it's what I was gonna say is with them, I'm still like in between, like Rich is not doing anything, but it's just Dom. Like she's so intense, and sometimes it comes across as a bit cringy, and then other
Yeah.
times it comes across as funny, and I'm like
And
still in two
sweet.
minds.
And
And sweet.
sweet.
Yeah,
You
I think
know,
she's a nice person.
I'm
She's probably a really nice person, but on the camera, she's just so intense.
I know. And yes, it is cringy sometimes. And then I think, oh, that's so sweet, and then I'm like, stop it. Just stop it.
From now on, they're team yo-yo. Like they're yo-yoing
Yeah.
back and forth for me. Like, and like, do I like you? Do I not like you? Not as a
Yeah.
person outside of the game, but in this game, like because
Mm.
you need to have people you're going to shout for. You need to have the underdogs. You need to have the front runners that everybody hopes don't steamroll, and then you need to have the team that you're kind of like, I'm slightly against you. I'm rooting for you not to win this thing, which I know is bad because everybody is good. And
Yeah.
I feel like the Amazing Race with their casting in recent seasons have been very safe. They're not really giving us someone that you're like, this is a terrible person. I don't want them to win.
No, I don't really have a terrible person.
Nah.
They're all pretty nice. They're lovely.
Yeah.
What I also wanted to think, what I thought about when they're getting to the yodeling, when they open up the envelope and it's sort of a bit ambiguous. They don't know. They're calling the cows. Could they hear the others singing? I'm wondering if they're far enough away, because if they can hear the singing, they're going to put up the person who's a better singer, obviously. So I'm wondering.
Yeah,
if
it's a
they
good
could
question.
hear
And I mean, obviously, Claire and Derek being the first two people there, they didn't have the luxury of seeing someone else choose which one would go and then hearing. And I think that they could, because at times it sounded like the second person, the person who wasn't participating in the roadblock, they could hear the way that it sounded, because Derek was like, oh, that's bad. Like, so I feel like they definitely would have heard what was going on and they would have been able to pick up. So in some ways for Derek and Claire, it was probably a disadvantage being in first place coming into this challenge, because they weren't able to make the correct decision on who was going to do it. I wonder what they thought calling the cows would mean.
Well, a lot of I don't know what it's like in South Africa or New Zealand, but there's this thing, not anymore at my age, but when you're teenagers or a bit older, early 20s, you're driving through the countryside, you see a cow, and everyone in the car goes moo, or makes the mooing sound. I'm wondering if in America it happens, and if they were thinking, do I have to suddenly make mooing noises to make the cows come in?
Or do you need to like herd cows? Do you need to herd cows somewhere? Like you're calling the cows to like, because this is the other thing that you don't always appreciate. You don't, when you get the clue, those clues are very cryptic. It's not clear as to what is actually going to be required of you when you do it. So it's easy for us to judge and say, Derek, obviously you should have done it. But yeah. But the interesting thing is that they get the clothes at this first roadblock. And the clue specifically says that they have to wear the clothes throughout the whole leg. Now, here's the question for you. When Rich and Dom leaves there and they go and park their car, Dom leaves her hat inside of the car when they go to that specific detour. Should they have been turned back at that point because they didn't have the hat? What is your opinion about that? Because I saw some comments online where people were saying that they were getting preferential treatment. That should have been harsher because they didn't have the hat throughout all of the different challenges.
What was the exact wording, though? Did it say you have to be wearing these clothes at the pit stop? Or did it say you have to be wearing these clothes all leg?
From my understanding, and I didn't watch the episode twice. I watched it once when I made my notes. Online, people were saying is that it said you had to have it the whole leg. But I'm sure if we're wrong, there's going to be people in the comments that will let us know about it. Just like everybody last week let me know that it was $2,500, not $25,000. So I'm sure they'll correct us.
Well, I think she should have been penalized if it said wear it for the entire leg. And she tried to get away with something at the end because she said it fell off as I was running,
She knew it didn't.
Yeah, she knows she knew she left it in the car. She thought she'd get away with it by saying, I it fell off when I was running, and maybe he would have said, oh, don't worry about it then. But no, you're not. You if it says that, you have to go and get it. And yeah, I think they definitely should have been penalized on the mat because she decided not to wear it so that she can keep her.
I don't know if it would have been
tail
enough.
Going.
I don't know if it would have been enough for. I feel like T-Rex, the team T-Rex, they were that far behind. They were never going to catch up. But
yeah, but then
you know,
it's still
fair's fair.
it's the whole meaning of the clue, and you've got to follow it. Look, Phil made them go and get it. At least
I was going to say, well done, Phil. Like, because this is clearly the sign that Phil has been doing this show for a long time. This is not season 2 or season 3 of him being a host. He was like, no, I'm calling you on it. You got to go get it.
Yeah.
There's no exceptions to this. I mean, do you know how many toughest nails seasons he's done now? Because he must have done over 40.
Well, he's recorded 4. I don't know if 4 have come out, but I saw something he wrote today that he's done 4.
All right. So 38 seasons of TV. You're not gonna.
Oh God,
get one
done
over.
and stuff in New Zealand before he started on the race, and he's done National Geographic specials as well. He's done so much stuff.
It's a veteran. You're not gonna fool him, and that's the thing. You've got Full there to bring the law down, get them to go back and get it. But even in this bit here where they're driving, there's more issues that are happening with people just not being able to. And I believe Dom and actually. Rich were those people that struggled again with directions, just getting there in the first place. They couldn't find the car park. I feel worried for Rich and Dom for many reasons at this point. I don't feel like they're long for the game. They might be that team that survives a couple of times, but I don't know. I just don't see it. If you struggle with the traveling bit,
I'm pretty sure they'll be, if not next out, the one after.
Yeah.
I
mean, unless Rich suddenly pulls something out of a hat and suddenly he becomes really good, because at this stage, it's 1-1. They both have done, I guess, a roadblock each. So they have divided it pretty equally. The only 2 teams that have not divided their resources equally at this stage when it comes to the roadblocks are Glenda and Lumumba and Linton and Sharik. So Glenda has done both their roadblocks so far. And Linton has done both of the roadblocks for team daughter and father, or father and daughter. So there's still potentially. I feel good about Lumumba. Lumumba's he's my man. He's like the dark horse. He's gonna come out. He's gonna have some. He's gonna have some skills. You're gonna see. He's gonna prove me right on this one. I'm telling you now. Like, we all are seeing Glenda as this powerful woman, which she is. But for him to have been able to get her. I'm telling you, the guy's got skills we haven't seen yet. Like, he's gonna. I feel good about that team. I think Glenda and Lumumba, they're going deep.
Yeah, and they're also discovering about each other as they're going along, because they've only been together 2.5 years. Such a
married for how long out of that? Like 12 months or something?
1.5 married. 1 year they knew each other, then 1.5 married. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was
how long did you know your husband before you got married?
8.
8 years.
8 years, yeah.
Yeah. It's very different these days. I feel like people are like, let's get married immediately. Like, they just got married within a year. That's short.
You really need to know somebody, otherwise you end up divorced.
But I guess it's also depending on the time of your life that you meet this person, right?
Exactly.
Because if you're young and you're like high school, or you're like in university or something, or college over in the States, you kind of don't know what you want either. But like, if they were a bit older when they got together, I don't remember what their age is, but let's say they're in like the early 30s or late 20s, maybe they've been through some stuff. They've had some bad relationships, and they kind of know, like, oh, these are the warning signs. And maybe that's the reason they got married. But they do seem to have great chemistry. And that's what I really love about this team, because when they went to the dance challenge as well, they make fun of the fact that he's not tall enough to twirl her.
Spinning you. And he said, that's okay, I got the finger. I just got to get the finger and I spin around with the finger.
Brilliant. They might be like, Quinton and Maddie is the team that I'm like, underdog team I want to shout for, but Glenda and Lumumba might be that team that I'm just going to be like, man, the more I see of them, I just think we're going to like them more and more. And obviously Derek and Claire I know really well from their previous shows, but I'm going to like them to a certain degree as well. But I like seeing some of these new teams coming out and being exciting to watch. And they're one of those teams. They've got great chemistry. They've gotten second twice now. So they're the most consistent team.
Yeah. And a lot of them were very good at the dancing. A lot of them didn't take a long time to figure it out. It didn't look that hard, actually. And except when the twins and the guy was trying to organize who was male and who was female. And she was going, well, I'm the male, but they both had dresses on and they both looked the same. The poor guy was
the one with the earrings. The one with the earrings is the guy. I was laughing because I kind of felt like that guy was us last season with Lulu and Lala. Like I never knew which one was doing the challenge. And this season I'm the same. I'm like, which one of the two twins is the one that's actually doing this challenge? Like I don't know if it was Emily or Molly that did the roadblock. Now, if I look at the stats for it, it says that both of them have done one. So
yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's like when they put twins on Australian Survivor. I'm like, I have no idea which one's which. At least they're on different tribes, so I could work that out. But when they're not together, I have no idea.
Yeah. Now, there's another. That's why are all these teams so likable, Michelle? Like, why are they so likable? It's frustrating because the other team that I really enjoyed this week was Linton and Sharik. Linton and Sharik talking a little bit more about their story, him moving from Jamaica, getting really emotional because his daughter said, they had this great relationship growing up and he was like, he never had that with his father. So he wanted to be that dad. And by the way, Sharik has got beautiful eyes. I don't know if you've noticed that. I don't know if it's context or not, but it's beautiful eyes. I would definitely get lost in those eyes. But, Linton and Sharik, they've got such a great relationship. And it was
Arun and Natalia. It's just stop. It's just...
I'm going to make a hot call here. I reckon they're going to be better.
Really?
I think they're going to be better. I think that I don't know if they'll win, and it's hard to be better because I mean, Arun and Natalia went all the way to 4th place, and we both love Arun and Natalia. They were both gracious enough to come and do an interview with us. They're wonderful people, but they had a couple of times where they were saved by non-elimination leagues. I feel like Linton and Sharik, they could go a bit deeper this season without potentially needing that help from production. Not the production necessarily help; it was design within the game, but they wouldn't need that help to get deep. They've got 4th place in the first league and 3rd place in this league. So I know you made that comparison last week as well, but I feel like
he's good at a lot of things, isn't he?
So the real question is, how good is Sharik? That's the real question.
What about it?
The real question is, how good is she? Because she hasn't done a roadblock yet. So that's when we'll know. Because I agree, Linton so far has been impressive in my mind. Like he's done well. So, but I really like the team. Again, fun team. Love the dynamic. Obviously, Marcus and Michael, they were the first team at the detour, and they're the team that chooses the bells first. And there is this bit of a conversation that happens between them where there's an 8-year difference. You wouldn't have known that. Like, they both, like, I mean, Marcus looks good for being 8 years older. Like, they almost look like they're the same age, And Marcus is like, oh, I'm 8 years older. And his brother played a musical instrument. I forgot the names now. I'm not reading my notes, but played a musical instrument. And
clarinet. One of them played the clarinet. That
was Marcus. That was Marcus.
Okay, he didn't know. So what did the
saxophone? Michael played the saxophone. I just looked at my notes for the first time this whole podcast. But yeah, he played the saxophone. So, and it's funny because the one brother didn't know that the other one was musically inclined as well. But there's this whole like brotherly rivalry that's going on. Like it's like a frenemy type of relationship, and they're very competitive with each other. And I feel like Marcus is the most competitive out of the two, but it could also just be because Marcus is the older brother, right? Now I do have a brother, and I do know that growing up, there was that kind of like, because myself and my brother, we're only like a year apart. So there was always like this, like, who can one up the other? Who's a little bit better? It's like that male thing that happens between two brothers. And they definitely have it.
Anything. I had my sister and I, we didn't have anything except what happened. I think I was 21. I hadn't learned to drive. And she was 17. We were 3.5 years apart. And she said, I'm going to get my driver's license. And I'm like, she can't get it before me. Jesus. I'm going to have to learn how to drive. And this is the only time in my life that I managed to get my driver's license before her, just to say that I'm the older sister. I have to have it. But that was the only competitiveness the whole time. So
What about
It was
like who got married first or who had kids
no, it
first?
didn't
Like
matter
none
about
of that.
that. We did get married within, God, six months of each other though, but not competitive at all in that respect. What did you race
Yeah,
over?
I don't feel like women, and I could be severely wrong here. But I don't feel like actually I am probably severely wrong. Like I'm talking from a guy's point of view. I don't feel like women are that competitive. But then I think about it, and actually women can be really competitive with each other. But I
Yeah.
don't know if that's necessarily between sisters.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's this thing with brothers, definitely. Like who's gonna do what first? Like who's gonna like same thing. Like who's got first driver's license? Who's playing for the first team rugby? Like different things like that. Who gets to be a captain or like a prefect, like at school or something like that. There's always this like competitiveness,
Yes,
I feel like, but it's like a friendly competitiveness, like where we would get annoyed with each other because we're both very strong-willed. And I feel like I see a little bit of that in Marcus and Michael as brothers, where we were super competitive with each other as well, and we were like, the one wants to one up the other one and wants to do better. But I feel like,
and this could be good for the race. Definitely. Like they want to say that, look, I'm not bad at a challenge. I am good at this challenge. Doesn't want to show himself up in front of his brother. So this could be good, this competitiveness.
But the one thing I'm going to point out, and I may or may not have done that myself in the past when getting super annoyed with my brother, it's not a good thing, is when you're like rubbing it in your brother. So one of us struggled with the bells and couldn't get it right. It's like so passive aggressive, and it was just not needed for team building. But because they're brothers, they may get away with it because they'll go to bed and they'll be okay the next day and they can move on from it. But I like it because it shows us that these two guys are authentic, and I like seeing that when they're out there. I don't know if Michael enjoyed being called out like that.
But you know what? That's what siblings do, and this is what friends do as well. If you're close with someone, and they'll say that. I mean, it's the Aussie thing to have a go at your friend, but in a kind-hearted sort of way, And
Aussies
I
do it
don't know
all the
whether
time.
it's something that you do as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Dolores, welcome to the live stream here, saying, good day, you two. Getting ready to go on the road after running some errands. What treat to catch the two of you live. Hitting the road. Well, Dolores, also, hope everything is well over in Florida with the hurricane. Like, obviously.
Florida?
Yeah, I believe Melbourne, Florida, if I remember correctly. So, hope everything is all right there. And everybody that is listening to this that is in Florida, our thoughts go out to you guys over there through these tough times. I hope you're all okay. I saw it on the news yesterday, and brutal, absolutely brutal. America gets hit by all these. Like, I mean, Australia's been through a few things recently as well, right? I don't know if it was
we
that
get
level.
the floods and the fires, but we don't get the typhoons. I mean, we get cyclones up north, but we don't get like the typhoons and the twisters that they have in Central America. We don't get the earthquakes,
That's
that
us here in New Zealand. Not fun. I've been through that before. Not fun. Earthquakes are not fun because you and I mean, none of it's fun, but it's just the whole thing. I feel like and I could be very wrong, but I feel like with a typhoon, we always get a warning in advance in Auckland where they're like, there's a typhoon coming our way. Be careful or evacuate certain areas. You get like a little bit of advance notice, where with earthquakes, there's none of that. That just happens out of the blue. So it's hard to respond to. But anyways, completely off topic. Hope everything's okay there, Dolores. Hope everybody's okay over in Florida as well as we get back here to this challenge. So
the dancing. Can I just say how funny or excruciating would it have been for the buildings around there, the businesses, having to listen to that music over and over and over again?
Were you not getting into the music? Look, I was like,
I loved it.
Doing like the little like side shuffle here. I was like, when Lewis was like stomping his feet and he was like nearly stomping through the ground because he was aggressive with it. I was like, man, this guy is into it, and both Lewis and Michelle did it first time. They got in there, and I mean, there's nothing that says that they're necessarily great dancers. So well done to them getting in there. And I think that they really wanted people to put their back into it when they were doing it, like really feel it, because there were a few people where you're just like looking at them and you're like, no, you're like not even pretending to enjoy this dance.
Like, no, just no.
It's like, no, it's not the Austrian way. It's not the Austrian way. You got to enjoy it. You got to put your back into it. Lewis and Michelle, again, another one where they got also like with traveling to both locations, I feel like they were struggling throughout that as well. And you could see like Lewis and Michelle saying in the beginning of the leg, we're going to make this a great one. You know, we're going to have a good day today.
Yeah.
And then still getting inside, Lewis especially getting inside of his own head.
Mm.
So I see some weaknesses there that if they don't work on it, they may be in trouble as well. Like
Yeah.
not a team that I necessarily see going deep. Because I feel like Lewis is a lesser intense version of Dom, but still intense.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. I mean, yeah.
And
I'll
who's
just look at my
Michelle?
notes.
Like, not you, Michelle, but who's that Michelle? Like, I mean, we're
I
not
know.
really getting anything from her.
I
Imagine
know,
that. We've
exactly.
gone 46 minutes into this podcast and I don't know who my co-host is.
Yeah, sorry. Like, I'll just speak up more in the future.
So Abby and Wool, thoughts on Abby and Wool? Like, I mean, again, like it was a little bit of nothing. Like, I feel like
Yeah,
we're
look, they're
not getting
not
anything from
standing
them.
out,
Yeah,
but they're
I
not.
want to like them because of their story, being fans
Yeah.
and everything. But
Yeah, but
not
they're
seeing
not
anything.
standing out at all. Look, a lot of the people aren't really standing out, and they're all really nice teams.
See, I
See,
told you we need some people to feel a certain way about them, either
like the
extremely like them
Australian
or not.
ones, the Australian teams, yeah, you've got quite a bit of division in the fan base for different teams, whereas these teams, I don't see any division happening at all.
Oh, by the way,
At all.
I'm just going to correct myself on Lewis and Michelle. I said, why did they do so well? They're not dancers. Sorry, Michelle, if you're listening to this. Michelle is a dancer. She's a professional dancer who dances for Pitbull. So
Oh yes,
she knows
and
how
that's
to
what
move.
she said. I want to do the dancing.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
do know something about her. She's a professional dancer for Pitbull.
I know, but how? I mean, she says I'm currently on the splice about her. I'm currently on tour with Pitbull. I'm thinking, no, you're currently not. You're on a race currently. What's happened to Pitbull and the dancing? Is someone being an understudy to you? Like that was weird that she says I'm currently doing that when you're not.
Yeah. Before we go into the placements here and where people end up placing after these two challenges, what did you think of Austria as a whole? Like, did you like the location? How do you feel about us going to? But how do you feel? I love the location as well. Yeah,
the
playing devil's
hills.
advocate here.
They were up in the hills of the Sound of Music. That was good.
All right, go on. What do you like about it? And I'll let you know.
Well, I love the hills, and then they were down in that square. I mean, they could have been in a town square that was more.
The architecture is beautiful. The real European architecture that you only get.
Pit stop was beautiful. Beautiful place. They could have had the dancing in an area that was more historic, I suppose, rather than modern, because I like seeing the history over there. And, you know, the bells were inside a building, so that doesn't worry me. I love that they started on the hillside. They didn't just have it in a room anywhere, I mean, you have to have yodeling on a hillside anyway, but it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't help looking at the name of the pit stop being Hofberg Imperial Palace, which is how you would pronounce it. Hofberg meaning head mountain, right? Imperial Palace, because it's kind of similar to Afrikaans, where I'm from, which is very similar to Dutch. You can pick up certain words, and
yes,
yeah, you're right. Beautiful, beautiful location. The whole Austria is beautiful, and it did remind me of a lot of the South Island in New Zealand. When you're driving in the South Island, you're in between all those mountain ranges.
With the Alps there, yeah.
With the Alps. Very beautiful, very beautiful. If you've never been to New Zealand, anybody listening to this, a little bit of free marketing for New Zealand. You definitely, if you come here, the North Island is where all the things are happening, like city life-wise, and there's beautiful locations up here as well. But if you just want to get away, like in the middle of nowhere and see beautiful landscapes like you did in Lord of the Rings, South Island's your place. Like you can get beautiful, beautiful places, and the lakes are crystal clear. So it reminded me so much of New Zealand when I watched it.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I'm a little bit worried, and maybe you know more than me because I don't read into a lot of the preseason stuff, but I'm a little bit worried that we've been in Europe twice now. We're still in Europe 2 legs, and are we getting an all-European leg again, or are we actually going to see other countries? Because
I wish I could tell. I can't remember where they're going. If you'd given me some sort of
warning,
Warning, I could have searched up where they go.
I'm the reason, if Logan's ever listening to this, I'm the reason that we keep losing points because I always ask the difficult questions.
At the beginning of the season, before the season came out, they actually showed where we are going. They actually showed the route.
I need to go back and watch it.
They don't do that very often. I said, oh, it's the first time they've done that, and then Logan corrected me, no, it's actually happened once before. They actually show the whole route, but I think they're just keeping COVID safe, whereas Australia isn't giving a damn about where they're going, and everyone's dropping off with COVID left, right, and center because we're just going anywhere.
Even the host, right?
Even the host.
Evil C is saying that the next leg is in Italy, and there's going to be some beautiful locations. The one thing I will say in the Amazing Race defense, they are going to the not so commonly traveled locations in these countries. It's not like they're going to like the capital of each country, and they're trying to go out into more rural areas where they get to interact with locals a little bit more in a more authentic way, which is nice to see. But I definitely want to see, I don't know, like I badly want to see them in like some third world countries this season. They may not do it because you're right.
I don't think they're not going to do that. I mean, I love it when they go to India just for the culture shock of it all. And that's one of my favorite places to see them in because, they're just so out of their comfort zone.
Jordan is interesting. If that's after that Jordan, that'll be different. There'll be a bit of a culture shock for people going there. So maybe we do get to see some. But a lot of those countries like Jordan and I think they were ahead of the world when it came to COVID and everything that was going on. I feel like they were vaccinated before everybody else and, ahead with a lot of that.
Yeah.
Not that anybody was fully protected against it, but interesting. Well, let's get into placement here. Let's get into where people end. We get the brothers, like we said, Marcus and Michael, first place. And we find out that Expedia is now the sponsor, not the Travel Gnome anymore. So is that RIP to the
Travelocity Gnome?
Yeah. Is it gone? They probably can't do both. I'm assuming Expedia has completely replaced them.
Someone actually said somewhere online that they are both owned by the same umbrella group. But obviously you can't have the Gnome if Travelocity isn't being mentioned at all. Yeah. Thanks, Evie. Evie's got the map out.
Evie is doing all the great work here, and also letting us know they're going to go to Iceland, which would be beautiful as well.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So it's sad to see maybe that Travelocity is not involved. We'll have to wait and see if the Travelocity Gnome makes its appearance at some point. But they both get a trip for 5 nights to Peru, which is going to be really nice.
That's a good one.
Lumumba and Glenda get second place. Sherrick Linton in third place. Derek and Claire, they're the real surprise package here, and I think shows us why they're such a dangerous team, because they're in 8th place, I believe, when they leave that first roadblock, and then they make up incredible time on the bells. And it's interesting because I thought Claire was tone deaf, and she still found a way to work with Derek, and I think there's a way that they work together as a team, and how he maybe kept her calm,
and also having the letters there helps a lot. I mean, I think she's got the rhythm. What I found funny, just going back a little bit, the brothers who do music didn't have the rhythm. They were going out of time, and they even admitted it. One of them admitted it, and I thought, how can you not be in time if you actually learned an instrument? It blew my mind.
Well, what they said was that they practiced, and I don't think it took them that long. I think it took them like 3 attempts to get it from memory. But they practiced it on their own, not knowing that there was going to be a live music band orchestra playing right next to them while they had to do it. And that threw them off slightly. And some people are just wired differently, like maybe he's got a mild form of ADHD or something, I don't know, and he just can't concentrate on it because he's got this music going on the side. I know I get thrown off by stuff like that sometimes as well. So I would like to believe I would have killed it, but I never actually, even though I used to sing when I was back in school, I've actually never played a musical instrument. So I don't know how it would go doing that.
I think you'd
I've got rhythm.
Exactly. If you sing, you have to be able to sing in time with the different notes and
Yeah.
know the tempo.
I used to
and all that
learn
stuff.
how to sing by listening to notes. Like I couldn't read notes because I never played an
Mm.
instrument. So people would be like, "Oh, this is this note," and then I would just like mimic it with my voice. That's how I used to sing
Yes.
because I wasn't
Yeah.
classically trained from a very young age. I used to act at school, and that used to be my thing that I used to do for fun. Like I loved acting, and then when we went to high school, they were like, "Oh, you're perfect for this role, but we need you to sing." And then I had to like learn how to sing when I was like, I don't know, 16 or something. I never
We
did it
should
before
have
then.
done this yodeling. We should have practiced it and done it tonight. This is what Kai and I used to do. We used to practice one of them.
That's insane. EVC is saying Derek and Claire was not 8th, they were 10th when they left the yodeling. So to go from 10th, that means
Yes,
that
it's a must.
only Quentin and
Yeah.
Maddie were behind them at that point. To
Mm.
go from 10th, and obviously Quentin and Maddie did a good job as well, but to go from 10th to
Fourth.
all the way to 4th so
Yeah.
quickly shows us why they're going to be a dangerous team this season.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel the only way that they go out is by Claire having to do something like she did this episode again, and there's like less people, something that
And it's
requires
right near the end.
yeah.
of
But I
the
feel like
leg.
that we're going to see them for a while, so I feel confident that they're a extremely powerful team. And
Yes.
Derek hasn't really gotten that involved yet. They both won so far on the roadblocks. He's pretty capable. Claire's really good as well. Like I feel like this is like
Yeah.
maybe her only weakness. Like she was pretty decent from memory in Big Brother as well. So, but anyways, they get 4th. We get Louis and Michelle in 5th place. So they did go up a bit, I believe, from their first performance. Their first performance after
Yeah.
week 1 were 10th. So they also gained a lot of time in this specific episode. Then obviously next we had Abby and Will.
Who was
Then we
so
had the
cute
twins.
together. They're really cute, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just I feel bad saying it. They're a little bit vanilla.
Yeah, they are
You know?
vanilla.
Like it's
Yeah.
just like great people, but I don't know if they're necessarily entertaining to watch
Yeah.
at this point.
Agree. They must
The
have done a
twins-
really good audition. They must have
Or
been-
yeah, I feel like they look out for fans every now and again because they want to have fans on the show.
Mm.
And there's this delicate balance between having fans on the show, but fans that are also entertaining. Just because you're a
Yeah.
big fan doesn't mean you're going to be entertaining to watch. But I don't want
Yeah.
to be too brutal. It's early days. They could still do something really good down the line.
You're
It's
not
just
being
I'm not
brutal.
feeling
Don't
it.
worry
I'm not
about
feeling
it.
it. The twins are in 7th place. Rich and Dom, they finally get there in 8th place, but they then have to run back, get the hat. We spoke about that a little bit earlier. And then
Yeah.
ultimately, because of that, they lose a place to Aubrey and David, who then gets 8th, with Rich and Dom in 9th place.
Yeah.
And then Quentin and Maddie, I think that they thought they were gone. The whole
They
episode, this whole
did.
leg, they did not
Yeah.
see anybody in front of them. And the raw emotion that Quentin had getting
Oh.
there, it's kind of what put me behind them. Like I'm kind of like, man, I'm team Quentin and
Yes.
Maddie right now. I'm like, I want to see these guys like go a bit deeper. I want them to like fight it
Yeah.
out a little bit longer.
Yeah, definitely. It was so nice. I love seeing emotion on the race. Not angry
Yeah.
emotion. I like seeing the, pent up emotion.
You can tell it means a lot to him. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what brought out that emotion in him, but I mean, obviously it's a pressure cooker situation.
Mhm.
Your life's on the line in the game, and he's doing it with his friend and person he's known for quite a long time, fellow cheerleader, captain of the cheerleading team that he has got there with him. But there has to be something more with him where he feels like he needs to prove himself. And like the
Yes,
Amazing Race is that place where he's going to prove himself. And I got that vibe from him, even with being one of the first male cheerleaders in the NFL. I feel like he feels he's got a mantle to wear in this season, and he's got that weight on him. And he felt a little bit of that relief when he wasn't out in 2nd place this season, and gives him an opportunity to push a little bit deeper. But sadly, it's going to mean that Rex and Tim, they're not going to make it.
I know.
Hats off to Rex being really calm at the bells and keeping Tim under control, because Tim looked like he was going to go full Dusty there at one point.
I know. Full
At that
dust.
look, like his
I know,
eyes is
Rick's
gone.
like, we've nearly got it. We've nearly got it. And he's like, okay, I think it was 12th time. We've nearly got it. We got it. Like, oh, Rex, you're just this cheer person.
Oh, yeah. So, sadly, we won't see them any longer in the game. They're out early. Like I said, we don't get to see that alliance potentially that could have formed with the boys, the military boys. But overall, I think it was a very straightforward episode. I enjoyed it, but I feel like we're still building up to something. Like, I feel the next couple of episodes, that's when it's going to get real. Everybody's being too nice at this point. Like, I need a little bit more of. I feel like they need to throw more. Like, they have to throw the U-turn back in there, make teams like sabotage each other, like bring a little bit of this into the game. Why are we all being so nice, Michelle?
Yeah, that U-turn would be the death. That with non-elimination leg, could be the death. And I think people would.
They'll take out the big teams now because there is no risk of potentially a team
doing it.
I don't know. If I'm out there, I'm telling you, I'm taking out the biggest competition, and I would not feel bad about it. But it's probably because I'm a Survivor fan and I've seen some cutthroat moves in the past, But people voting out their mom, for instance, a few times.
You'd turn Derek and Claire if you were in front of them.
Right now, I would be inclined to maybe Derek or Claire, or maybe Glenda and Lumumba, because they've been twice now. They've been second, and Derek and Claire has shown to fall in the specific league. But what might push me towards Derek and Claire would be the fact that they've got experience of having been on a reality TV show before, and I mean, in Derek's case, this is his third time doing a reality TV show. Even though it's not the same show, he does have that experience of how to deal with the cameras, how to act under pressure. So he did Big Brother with Claire, and then he came back to do the Challenge USA last season, which he did reasonably well in as well. So he's got experience, and he's got experience doing physical stuff and being under pressure. So I feel like you need to cut that experience out early on.
Yeah. Okay.
Evie is breaking my dreams here right now, saying I believe there are no U-turns this season. Why are you going to be so cruel to me?
How do you know that, Evie?
Evie's got the tea. She or he, I don't want to assume, but they've got the tea. Like, they know something.
She said, I believe. She didn't say there aren't any. Evie, are you talking to a racer? It's like, we just want.
Do you have the inside scoop? But no, I think that you need a little bit of that to create a bit of like animosity, or like teams going at each other. Like, I want to see that. Yeah. Like, they could be friends after the show. They don't need to be friends while they're doing the race,
Yes.
That's my thoughts about it in any case. Anything else you want to talk about for this leg of the Amazing Race? Anything we missed?
Just another aside in that the people who were running the challenges, the poor woman at the bells, did you see her sitting on the chair at the side, obviously thinking, dear God, why can't they get this? We looked at a shot of them at one point, and the guy who was giving out the clues in the square with the dancing, how he kept making the races. He was actually doing a fill where he was saying, oh, I'm sorry, guys. This is a very perfect performance. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is great, because a couple of the teams actually went, oh, and then they went, yay. So I've really enjoyed in both episodes now the people who are doing the challenges for, production and, showing their personalities.
I think that if you're a handler potentially in these future seasons and you're someone that's going to do this, you need to be negotiating that you get commission every time they choose you, because that girl, she did the brunt of the work, and then her fellow handlers at that challenge, they got all the money for her hard work. And I feel like you could see her soul leaving her body towards the end there, when Team T-Rex were just struggling over and over. That was a funny moment to see. And fun episode. Like I said, what I think we learned from this episode, longer isn't always better unless there is something good happening in a longer episode. Like, I like longer episodes, but I kind of feel like there was a lot of like replaying of people failing, which gets old, So I'm hoping that with next week we get to see a return to a normal episode. It's a bit more fast paced, and let's hope that they throw like another scramble in there or a couple of things just to mix it up a little bit in my mind. But overall, I'm Team Quentin and Maddie. Who are you? Who you get ready for going into next week? And I also just want to give a special shout out to Glenda and Lumumba. I really like them as well.
Oh, really? I like Derek and Claire and Emily and Molly. They're my favorite too.
I love it. We're both on different teams here, so some of us will prevail at the end, and we're gonna get our heart broken when our favorites leave. But I'm sure it'll continue to evolve as we cover this here week by week. If you got to this part of the podcast, please consider subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate it. It shows that you are liking what we do. Put a like on this video. Comment with your thoughts. What did you think? What do you agree or disagree with? How many mistakes did I make this time on the show? I don't want to assume I'm the only one making mistakes on this podcast. Let us know, and we'll catch you next week, same time, same place, as we talk about episode 3. Thank you so much, and thanks for everybody in the live being a big part of this as well. Evie, you're a legend. I saw some of those other comments. It might be a little bit too spoilery. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody listening to the audio version of this and what's going to happen in the next leg, but that sounds really exciting. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.